This is the Action Movie Guys podcast, bringing you action movie reviews from across the decades, plus box office numbers and insight like never before. And now, your hosts of the Action Movie Guys podcast, Alex and Nate.
Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Action Movie Guys podcast. Now, this is episode 66, the last movie of the Indiana Jones franchise with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. I'm your host, Alex Figueroa. My co-host is...
I am Nate from Netflix Reviews.
All right, Nate, how long has it been since you've seen the 2008 Crystal Skull?
Yeah, so guess what? You want to know a fun fact about this movie?
Oh, boy.
Here's a fun fact. This is the first Indiana Jones movie I ever saw, was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Okay.
This came out when I was 21 years old, and I went to see it at the theater. I had not seen the other ones yet. You got to think, 21, I'm still forming my movie. You know, I went to the movies a lot as a kid. I grew up watching them. But now I'm like, I have a car, I have my own money, I have my own job. This was the first Indiana Jones movie I saw. Fun fact, how long has it been since I've seen it? 6-7 years. It's been a long time. I don't frequent, honestly, all the sequels, I don't frequent them super often. So it's been a while, but it's the first one I ever seen.
Yeah, now this movie, me and my wife did get to see this in the theater. So this is my first Indiana Jones movie I got to see in the theater. I was intrigued. I was happy because it was Indiana Jones, right? We'll talk about the experiences when we're doing our reviews. But yeah,
right.
It's been a while since I seen this. This is not the one this has got to be the third time. Theater, okay. And then when I purchased it, and then now,
and then now for
watch
this.
it. Yeah, so with that said, let's have some fun. But before we do, let's get some stuff out the way. If you guys are watching us on the YouTube channel, please hit the like button if you're enjoying this videos or enjoying any other videos. And please hit those notification bells so every time new videos drop, you guys will be notified. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, support the channel. Now, if you guys want to listen to us on the go, all you got to do is search for Action Movie Guys on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to your podcasts on. Hit those auto downloads so every time episodes drop, you guys can take us on the go with you. So with that said, we're going to go right into the box office numbers for the Crystal Skull from 2008. So let's have some fun. Domestic, $317 million. This
yes,
was a
sir.
hit in the United States.
This was the one of the biggest summers ever because this made $300 million. Iron Man made $300 million, and The Dark Knight made like $500 million all in one summer. I remember I was at the theater every weekend in 2008. It was a big one, and this was one of them that kicked it off.
Hey, there you go. International, $473 million. And of course, for a worldwide total, taking all three movies and smashing them to the floor with $790 million at the box office. Now, with a budget, it's kind of high, $185 million. So that was like, poof.
Doesn't
Don't
matter.
worry about it.
Doesn't matter. It made almost $800 million. You could have spent $300 million and this thing would have been profitable. So doesn't even matter.
Pretty much. And the crazy thing is that with these numbers, because we watch, if you guys been listening to us or watching us on YouTube, with these numbers are telling us that any movie that they throw up with Harrison Ford or Indiana Jones, it is highly successful at the movie theater. So with that said, that's a good thing. You know, that's a profitable franchise. But with that said, we got to see what the critics and the audience score is on the Crystal Skull. So Neat, please take it away with the Rotten Tomato scores.
Listen, I have so much to say about this movie. We're gonna follow our structure. Yeah. I have a lot to say about this movie. I really do. This has a good critics score. It has a 78%. It's like, So, Temple of Doom was an 84. This was a 78. For critics, they are not far apart. 6% is very close. Now, audiences, lower, but higher than I expected to see, which is going to factor into what I want to talk about. 53%.
Not bad.
So it's not high, but you're right. You would imagine the way people talk about this movie, it would be 5% or 8%, right? Because it's okay. Well, I'll save it. But 53% is the critics or the audience score. So it's not the worst I've ever. We've done far worse movies.
Yeah,
and the critics actually liked it, and it made a lot of money. So
but you know what? It doesn't even matter. Like The Rock says,
it doesn't matter
because we don't care about the critics. We don't care about the audience. You guys are here to think of what we think about this movie. Because at the end of the day, everyone you talk to, Crystal Skull stinks. It's the worst of the franchise, but we're about to tell you guys, is it really that bad? Well, sit back and enjoy, because this is going to be a hell of an episode on episode 66 of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Nate, take it over with lead character Harrison Ford.
Listen, first of all, I just want to say, I don't believe people. Yeah. I flat out think people lie. And I flat out think people are followers and sheep. Now, with that being said, I don't want you guys to think I'm going to sit here and say this is the greatest movie ever.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to say is a movie only makes that much money if people go see it multiple times, first of all. Which means all the people who say it's so bad, a bunch of y'all saw it 2 times, maybe 3 times. Okay. Number 2, 53% audience score. That's more than half the people who watched it gave it a positive review. So I don't want to hear about that. Listen. I have a controversial take on this movie.
Okay.
Because I don't think it is as bad as the rest of Earth seems to think it is, personally. Okay? Now,
this is lead character.
I want to start with that. Because it's going to... Listen, because it makes me upset when I hear about Crystal Skull. Okay? Lead character... I say that because I'm going to give all my points.
Okay, give your point.
Lead character. I didn't give him a 5. I didn't give him a 5. Okay. And some of that has to do more so with the performance than the way the character is written. I gave him a 4.5. I don't think Harrison Ford can be bad in the role, personally. Okay. I thought Temple of Doom was a 4.5. I'd put this one on par with that version of him. Not that he's very cynical. He feels, even though he's older, he feels like the same Indiana Jones that we have seen before, just older. Now, the reason I knocked off that point is kind of performance-based. I do think there are moments where Harrison Ford, it's like a glove. You know what I mean? Like when you put the role, it's like a glove, and he fits right back in. There are moments here and there, though, where he's a little... He got this thing where he started acting later, where he's just like kind of like a grumpy old man. And he kind of has moments like that, which I don't love, because I don't think Indiana Jones would ever be that, personally, you know? But he's not terrible. He's good. I love the stuff with him and Marion. Honestly, I love the scene when they're in the truck and they're like talking to each other. And she's like, she's like smiling after he says whatever. He's like, hey, there was one thing about all those other ladies. They weren't you. It's a great line. Like he still is Indiana Jones. And I just don't think it's a bad version of him. It's an older version, but it's not a terrible 4.5 for me.
One thing I do agree with you is that this Indiana Jones is very older than the last time we seen him on screen, which was in '89 with Last Crusade. So you got to see the toll on him, right? And you get the older he is, he loses his job. You get to see all that. You got to see Marcus is not there no more, one of his best friends. And there was one line that hit me in the beginning, is that when he was talking to the other professor in his house, or actually, if no one ever noticed, that house is his father's house from Last Crusade.
Right.
So he was living in Henry Sr.'s house in that movie.
Watching them all in a row, you really pick up on stuff.
Yeah, so you did. So he was living in Sean Connery's house in that movie. And one thing that hit me there, it was like, Marcus left and then Dad left. So it looked like they left back to back. So they died within a month apart or a year apart, but it hit him hard. So I thought that was pretty cool. With Indiana
he has that
Jones
line where he's like, I'm at the age where like I'm losing more stuff than I'm gaining, or something like that. You know what I mean? And I thought that was really good, a good line.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then you see throughout, like you said, him and Marion, I thought that was pretty cool. It's something about their chemistry. I thought those two characters are very well together on screen. Look, with that said, I agree with you. I gave him a 4.5 also. I didn't think he was a perfect on this one, but I thought he was nearly perfect from the other ones on my score. Now, let's get right into main villain, which is Cate Blanchett, right?
Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
Listen, in this franchise, I don't think it's not a villain franchise. You know what I mean? Like for me, I haven't given terribly high scores. 4 was the high. I actually thought Belloq was the best one to this point. I think she's on par for me. She is, first of all, Cate Blanchett is one of the best actresses working, period. She is incredible. Multiple Oscar nominations. She's won. She's an amazing actress. So you could do much worse as far as getting an actress. And she always is good. Like she's incapable of being bad, in my opinion. So she's good in the role. This is a villain that is constantly throughout this whole movie. She is a woman and she fights with them all the time. She has a sword fight. She is not scared. She's not she's not a person who just hires other people to do the dirty work. She has people under her, but she is in there doing it the whole time, which I always respect in a villain. I think in this franchise, she's one of the better villains, in my opinion. She's a real problem for them. She's evil. You got to be evil. You know what I mean? But she's like subtly evil. You know, there's moments where she's like, okay, I'll go along with what you're saying. She doesn't just flat out try to kill everybody. Right. You know what I mean? I gave her a 4. I think she's one of the better villains in this franchise.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to Kate Blanchett's character, she was a little annoying for me. It could have been the accent. I mean, I'm not saying like
that Ukrainian accent.
Ukrainian, yeah, like Mr. Jones, I would like to, and I was like, what? Okay, whatever. But other than that, like, honestly, you're right. She was very good. She was very menacing. And even in the beginning, when she took the sword and put it right in his throat, I thought that was pretty cool to show, like, so I agree. I gave her a 4. I enjoyed her. She was a very good villain. Yeah. It's not like my Kalima guy, Marat, but not just joking. But yeah, I gave Kate Blanchett, like, again, she was very good. When she's on screen, she was commanding the screen. Even when Harrison Ford was there, I thought it worked very well on any other scenes that she was there. Even the ending when she was there with the aliens, and we're going to talk about all that. I thought it worked. So with that, I give it a 4. Now, of course, one of Nate's favorite action.
That's right.
His action scenes. So all
right,
Nate.
Listen, look, again, we're at a point here where when I'm watching this movie now, obviously we watch these movies with these scores in mind. I don't sit there with a pen and paper, but I'm mentally like, jotting things down. The action scenes in this, I will say, are a step down from the previous movies. Okay. That doesn't mean they're bad. We gave a 5. I gave a 5 to all 3 of the other movies. Yeah. You have perfect action. To say something's a step down from perfect does not automatically mean it is bad. There is some thrilling action scenes in this. I love the chase scene in the school when they're on the motorcycle and you have like a stunt guy, it's not Harrison Ford, but he's like, on the feet are touching the ground and then doing all this stuff. It's great work. I love that it's shot old school, a lot of it. The problem is there's also a lot of CGI. And there's one scene where they're driving in the jungle and they're having a sword fight. And it's a good scene, but it never gets to great because it's a very obvious green screen. Yeah. And it doesn't look amazing. So, if that looked more realistic, it's a great idea. It's a great concept for an action scene. But I love the opening in the warehouse. I really do. I think that's a great action scene where he swings on the thing and then that's funny. And he like doesn't land and he lands into the other car and punches the dudes. And it's very classic Indiana Jones to me. Yeah. So I thought the action scenes were good. Some of them a little bit too much CGI, but thrilling enough. I gave it a 4. This is not a 5 like the other 3. But I don't think the action scenes are the issue with this movie.
Yeah, for me, I wasn't. You're right. The action scenes wasn't there. For me, it wasn't there. There are certain things that I did not enjoy in this movie that I felt like they were trying to replicate from the other movies, like with the whole 3 waterfall drops, which I was like, we already seen that with Temple of Doom when they did the whole 3 from the sky. Yeah. They landed on the snow. From the snow, they went over down into a river. So I was like, we kind of saw that already. So for me, I was just like, like it's been there, done that. Like, give me something new. Another thing this movie didn't give me, and the other 3 did, was iconic moment. Like when you sit there and you go, wow, this is gonna be like highlighted everywhere. This movie didn't get that. Did not have nothing close to any of the bridge scene, the rolling of the ball, even with his father with the Holy Grail, like that. Those are the iconic scenes of Indiana Jones, right?
Plane scene in Last Crusade when it's going through the cave.
Yes,
and it's like on fire. Like that's a very iconic, kind of shot from that too.
So with that, like this one didn't have it, and then Shia LaBeouf swinging with monkeys, and I was like, this does not look good at all. It was bad. I do agree with you. The beginning sequences were awesome. With that, I gave it a 3.5. In terms of action sequences, I wasn't too thrilled with the action sequences in this movie. You saw the aging of Indiana Jones on this more than the others, which is going to happen. I'm not knocking points on that. Yeah, right. But I'm knocking points on that. I was knocking more points on the CGI, and the Shia LaBeouf monkey scene was not good at all. That made no sense to me. But let's get right to storyline, because this is the critical point of the categories for this movie is story.
It is, but let's be honest. Let's have an honest conversation here, okay? Let's have an honest conversation here, because I watched this literally right after The Last Crusade. So I watched these one, and then I didn't take a break, and then I watched the other one. The storyline of this, outside of the very end, let's say, like the very end scene, this is exactly, it's an Indiana Jones movie. Like, look at the plot of the movie. It's a group of people. Usually it's Nazis. And in the second movie, it's those Indian people. And in this one, it's like Russians, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to get something. He gets involved. He has to try to get the thing, but not let them get the thing. That is literally the storyline of all the three movies. The first one, he's got to get the Ark of the Covenant, but not let the Nazis get it. The second one, he's got to get the stones and not let those bad guys keep it. The third one, he's got to get the what's that thing called? I can't think of it right now. The cup, the
Holy Grail,
the goblet of fire. Yeah, the Holy Grail. He's got to get the Holy Grail and not let the Nazis get it. This is no different. He's got to get the Crystal Skull and not let the Russian lady get it. So on the base level, this is an Indiana Jones storyline. The only difference between this one and the other ones, as far as that, the adventure kind of storyline, is this one has a sci-fi element to it, right? Which, let's be honest, this is set in the 50s. They're doing serial, right? Like the first ones are homages to those old like 30s serials. And what was really big in the 50s? Sci-fi movies. They really were. So in the history of film, it makes sense that this is kind of a progression. I know a lot of people hate it because of that. Oh, it has aliens. Okay, whatever. But it makes sense within the realm of what they're doing, in my opinion. I gave it a 3.5 because there's other problems that I have with it. It's not that. I don't think that the alien thing doesn't bother me the way it does bother some people. For me, it's more so the storyline with like the Shia LaBeouf. And I could have done without, and I like him as an actor, but I could have done without a lot of that kind of stuff. The stuff with the doctor that's all crazy, like Oxley or whatever. I don't really care for that. I don't care for that portrayal. His friend that's like quadruple crosses him. There's a lot of other little things here and there that I'm like, I could have done that different. They could have done this different. But overall, it feels like an Indiana Jones storyline. So a 3.5. It's still the worst. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's like the bottom of the barrel dumpster juice.
Man, story. I'm trying to approach it in a way that like, all right,
do it.
It's gonna do it. This movie was actually, in terms of storyline, it was good. And I understand what, like, I'm not even going to lie with you. I sat down watching this movie just like you. I watched it back to back with my wife. There are elements that if I was writing the script, I would remove. Like, just get rid of. He should have never had his son in this adventure. Just hands down, he should have just ended up at the end. He should have came out of the blue or somehow. Should have never been in the movie. Marilyn, I could have did without. I mean, it was great to see her in the screen, but she was useless. She didn't do much, right? All she did was drive, but it was nothing. I mean, besides,
she's only there because of Shia's character.
Right. And then that was the only way to get Indiana Jones into the whole adventures. They had her there, right? So it was just like, whatever. But the alien thing, I wasn't too crazy with it. Like, again, to me, it didn't bother me that it took place in 1957, which everyone knows the history of Roswell because I'm a big X-Files fan. So in 1947 is when the aliens crashed, and he worked on that, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. But then, like, I wanted more of that, and I guess that was my X-Files side of me. Like, man, it should have been more of that storyline instead of going with this whole Crystal Skull crap and all this. Like, I wanted that whole conspiracy with Indiana Jones, right? Like him searching for something that was never even there, right? Like, they just dragged him along. And I thought that would have been pretty cool. But in terms of the element of the alien head and all this, it didn't work for me as much. I was just like, but it was an adventure, which I enjoyed. I was like, okay, this is cool. We got new set pieces, right? You got all these cool. I always love. It's like what's that movie with Nicolas Cage? Like the National Treasures. I love all that stuff, right? When he's going through all this stuff and he's doing puzzles and all that. They did it here too.
This movie had El Dorado. You know, like they talk about. They go to El Dorado. That was pretty cool. Like, they still tied in a lot of the Indiana Jones stuff.
Right. So they like you said, they added the elements of sci-fi with Indiana Jones movie. And of course, I mean, some people like it, they love it. Some people are gonna hate it and throw it in the barrel, the bottom of the barrel, like Nate said, in a dollar bin.
Yep.
Nate gave it a 3.5. I'm giving it a solid 3. It's a good movie. I'm not saying it's like the best Indiana Jones, and I'm not even saying it's the worst. I think it's in the middle. Like if I see this on TV, I might just leave it on and just like, okay, whatever, it is what it is, and just enjoy it for what it is. Yep. But yeah, I give it a 3 overall.
All right, so Overall, now, I've pretty much defended this movie for the most part, and I feel like my points were valid, and people will disagree, and that's okay. Yeah. That's why we're all here for, right? This movie has some real big issues. I was talking with my brother when I was watching it. He's like, "Oh, which one is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, Crystal Skull," which was the first movie he saw of this week. I took him to see it. He was like 12 years old. We went to the theater, went to watch it, whatever. The fact of the matter is this, I feel like this is a good, solid movie with some really, really stupid stuff in it. Like it's so stupid that I think some people write off the whole movie because of that. And it's this term that people use. They say, nuke the fridge, right? Because that scene is so tremendously bad that I think some people right away just say, oh, this is so stupid. The whole movie's stupid. The scene with the nuclear bomb where he hides in the fridge, the thing gets launched, he'd die. He would clearly die. And then the other part of my head wants to be like, well, wait a second. In Temple of Doom, he jumps out of an airplane in an inflatable raft. He lands 1,000 feet down on the snow. Then he would die there too. So there's so many times in these movies that he would have died if that's your excuse. Don't get me wrong. I think it's stupid. It was I don't know why it's in there. It's one of those scenes where it's like, you just wanted to have a nuclear blast, like CGI, I guess. The monkey scene with Shia LaBeouf is top 5 worst just scenes, period. Like, it's not Tarzan, okay? We're not watching the Tarzan movie. There's Tarzan. He's swinging the monkeys. I'm not mad. I'm supposed to be watching the somewhat reality-based, because there's a lot of fantastical and mystical elements in the Indiana Jones movies, right? We've seen people's hearts get ripped out. We've seen voodoo dolls that actually work. It's not realistic, but this is too much. So I think there are moments that are too much, that are just like groan-inducing bad. With that being said, I give the movie a 3. I think overall I gave it a 3. I don't think it is by any means a terrible movie. I don't subscribe to that line of thought. I think it has terrible moments. It has terrible moments. It has some terrible things, but in an otherwise solid adventure film, in my opinion. So I give it a 3. I recognize the faults. I just don't hate this movie like everyone else does. Yeah,
I agree with you on everything you said. I mean, yes, you do see the flaws of the movie, whatever they pick on in terms of writing. It was a poor choice of writing, and okay, fine. I mean, it is what it is. The monkey scene was god awful. They could have just cut that in the director floor of the editing room. They could have just cut all that out. I will stick with what I said. I don't think Shia LaBeouf should have been in the movie. I don't even think Marion should have been in the movie. I think it should have just been a straight Indiana Jones adventure without them. But they added them into the movie. I had no problems with them. In terms of the nuclear bomb, I remember an interview with Steven Spielberg, and he talked about that was something that was in a movie that he wanted to put in the movie, but it didn't.
It's an homage.
Yeah, okay. It was something like it was supposed to be in like it was I don't know where. I don't know. I don't remember if it was Back to the Future, because the car was supposed to be it needed to go back in time, so it needed to go through a nuclear explosion or something. Yeah, it was weird. But anyway, he added it into the movie. I had no problems with it. It is what it is. I mean, he got in we see this in movies, right? Like, you're right. Whatever franchise you see, everyone will give it the okay. It's okay because it's my favorite movie. We're going to let it happen. But if it's a movie like on a sequel or of another movie, it's like, oh, get out of here. It's never going to happen, right? Like, and that's the problem. Like, how many times have we seen John Wick get hit by a car and he gets him and he's still fighting everybody? Wow.
Oh, how about John Wick 3? He falls off a building, a whole entire building, alive. He's alive.
Yeah.
No problem.
Right. So
wasn't even in the fridge.
Yeah. So it's like, you can write it off because, you love the franchise. And I agree with you. Is a nuclear blast, it didn't need to be there. But I tell you this, when he's walking up the hill and they show the mushroom cloud, that joint looks awesome.
It looks great.
It looks like an awesome poster shot of him standing there with the mushroom. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I love the scene that they're scrubbing him and they scrub his junk and he grabs it and he picks it up.
Right after?
Yeah, he grabbed it and he was like this. He was like, what are you doing? I thought that was all hilarious. But anyway, I gave it a 3.5. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Yeah. I couldn't see what was wrong with it. I remember I hated the crap out of this movie when I saw it in the theater. I was like, this thing stinks. After rewatching it, I was like, you know what? I kind of enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, I thought the ending was a little far-fetched when she was like, give me more, and there's all power and knowledge and all this crap. And I was like, it didn't work. The ending was kind of weak for me. It didn't have that iconic him and his dad off the sunset. You know how like he was like, let's go. And it's like, and one thing I remember why I did not like this movie as much. The score stunk. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened to the John Williams that I knew. They must have not hired this guy.
Everybody got old.
I don't know what happened. But the score for this movie stunk. It was horrible. It is the worst score out of all the Indiana Jones movies. When he's doing his thing, his theme did not kick in as much like in the other ones, right? When he did something, it was like, pin, 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 pin.
I agree.
Nothing at all. And I was like, phooey. I was like, you're going to get a bad score from me. And I took away points and I gave it a 3.5 and overall. All right, total points, Nate.
Total points for me is a 19 out of 25.
Whoa!
So listen, all 4 of these movies, this is the lowest score I've given, but they're all 19 and up. I think this movie fits with the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
Is it the lowest one? Sure. I'm not arguing. No one's going to argue that with you. But what I am arguing is I think there's this mentality, especially online, with movie people, and that just everyone says it's bad, so everyone just says it's bad type of thing. You know what I mean? There are, I like to watch movies with a positive mindset in general because I love movies. Why am I going to go into every movie trying to hate it? Well, then I don't like movies that much if that's how I want to watch them. Yeah. I want to like them. So sure. If something's really bad, it's bad. But this movie has a lot to like, in my opinion, and it fits in the franchise. So 19 out of 25.
Yeah, I give it an 18.5. I enjoyed this movie. Yeah, I'm a half a point down. I enjoyed it. And again, I think the half of point was from the actual, not John Williams score stunk. It's just, that's what it is. It's just pure blank, man. I didn't like it at all. I wasn't too crazy with the 50s theme. I think they should have just keep this somewhere. I think they should have went to another area. But
I think they did that just because he was older. So they're like, well, let's just make it 20 years in the future. That way he looks older, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But look, other than that, look, 18.5, I had no problems with it. I could watch 1 through 4 back to back to back to back, and I'm okay with it. I have no problems with it. I thought I was going to take this disc and throw it into a river, but I will not.
Everyone else on Instagram, I bought the trilogy, or I bought this thing, and they put the movie ain't that bad.
Everybody's down that evil path. But look, it is what it is. But Nate, you know what to do.
Yeah, so that is our Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull review. Now, next week or next episode this week, you're going to be hearing our review on a Sylvester Stallone. I'm not going to say classic, but an old movie called The Specialist. So keep an eye out for that one. And then, of course, one episode after that, you will be getting our Indiana Jones rankings. We will be ranking the franchise, me and Alex, 1 through 4. 99.9% sure we do not have the same ranking. So look forward to that one. And that's it.
Yeah. So again,
next franchise, Expendables. That's going to be the next franchise coming up.
Expendables. Now that's going to be a good. I can't wait for that. But with that said, if you guys want to follow Nate on his social media accounts, please follow Nate over on Instagram at Nateflix Reviews. Check out the podcast with him and his friends called Nateflix Movie Reviews, Anything Action Movie Guys Podcast. All you got to do is go to www.levelsofgeeks.com/podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Action Movie Guys Podcast. If you want to take us on the go, search for Action Movie Guys Podcast. I mean, not podcast, but Action Movie Guys on any of the platforms that you listen to, whether it's Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere, we are there. And of course, now we're in TuneIn Radio. Also, with that said, I'm your host, Alex Figueroa, and that is
Nate from Nateflix Reviews.
Be awesome to each other and geek out.